Welcome to another edition of the NPH Hour here on News Talk Saga 960 AM. I'm your host, Jason Thom. It is CEBL Championship weekend. The league is in Edmonton, Alberta to crown its third champion ever. Later in the show, we'll be getting to some interviews with two key players from the final four teams. But first, we're starting off the show by checking in with NPH lead scout Efe Ashakah, who's a regular here to talk about everything Canadian basketball. And Efe, let's start with the next wave of players coming out of Canada, and the roster for the under 16 national team was finally announced. The team starts competition in Mexico next week at the FIBA U16 Americas Championship, much like the senior men's, senior women's, the U19s from both the men's and women's side. There will be high expectations for this team, who has medaled in every U16 event since it started over a decade ago. They're ranked number 2 in the world, only behind the USA. First off, Efe, who are some names on this squad that people need to get familiar with?
I think first you can start off with a kid who was playing for Canada Elite this summer, Efe Oliogu, Nigerian. So you heard that, how that rolled off the tongue.
Hey, I appreciate that, man, because we hear the broadcasters never able to do it, and we see the names always get shortened, which is totally fine. But I love that you put in that homework, man.
Definitely. He's a stud. He's one of those guys who's playing way beyond his years. He's got that feel, super athletic, and he's got great size at this age on the wing. Some even call him like a point or a combo as well. So he's someone I'm definitely going to be locked into watching. And then at the guard spot, the point guard spot, we have guys such as Jacob Theodosio, Baraka Koji, another Canada Elite kid, Ishan Sharma, who can play the 1 and the 2, who's a great shooter as well. There's a lot of talent, as well as the big spot with Olivier Rioux. I know you like your bigs.
I do, and I was talking about earlier about Zach Eddy off the air. We were talking about how rare it was to be able to have that sort of size, and Eddy was getting that look for the senior men's team, but obviously wasn't quite ready for that level. And it's amazing to me now that the U16 level, we got another, like, this kid's 7'5" at 15 years old, and the same connection to Eddy, that Ryu will be going to IMG Academy, where Eddy ended up finishing his high school career. So that only makes, for a great opportunity for the kid.
History just continues to repeat itself, it looks like, with the big kids. But what are they feeding these guys? Like, some of these kids are it's not just him. Northern Kings kid, Char Ye, 6'9". I got to see him at Jane and Finch. He looks like a stud as well. It's crazy the amount of size that we have now in this country. Now starting to complement the guards, the combo guards that we have, who have gotten to the highest levels as well. So that's really it's really good to see.
Yeah, we have to temper our expectations, though, as well, because as we know, bigs always take longer to develop. And here at the U16 level, there's going to be some awkwardness. There's going to be some stuff that just doesn't look pretty all the time. So I do want everybody to kind of be ready for the fact that this isn't a polished product. And as you know, like the bigs sometimes, really take a long time to get the feel for the game.
100%. I think one thing looking at the list of players that are on their team is also who's not on it. Like, there's a lot of talented kids who are not on that list, maybe due to injuries, such as Mohamed Traore. I got to see him in Quebec last December with Dynasty. He's going to be a stud as well. 6'4", guard, wing, big body, super athletic. He's going to be really good. Elijah Glover, I've gotten to see at the NPH rep circuit, running with the Burloak. He's a dog as well. Braden Jackson, who caught a camp invite with Halton, looks really good. A lot of potential, a lot of promise. About 6'7" wing who can dribble and handle it as well. And his teammate Dominic Pangonis, he didn't even get a camp invite. He's about like a 6'5" guard as well, and slasher. He's got the right mindset. He's a tough kid. So there's a lot of talent that didn't even get it. I can't wait to see. I can't even get it out. Like, I can't wait to see how things look like in the next 2-3 years. So for the kids, just keep in mind, like, even if you don't get the invite or you don't make the team, like, again, that's just not your path. It doesn't mean you still can't be a great player down the road.
Yeah, and I think it's important to talk about that because again, Canada basketball does have limitations on what they're able to do due to funding, right?
That was my next question too. Actually, was what? So what is our process like? Do we have a process? Like, do we have like people we go to who can kind of be in touch with these different provinces, like in Quebec, which is still a part of Ontario and stuff like that. But now obviously in Calgary and Winnipeg, wherever it may be, like we got to do a better job, I feel like, circling the country and finding those guys.
So I think a lot of it, there's a targeted athlete strategy, which has worked really well on the women's side as well, where they identify players at a young age and very early train them during the summers. The Betty Ackles are another example of that on the men's side that have been working with Mike Meeks for a very long time. And there's a ton of other players that have been working with the national program trainers, even when they're not on a team per se, just to kind of get used to both skill development and the type of offense and defense that is played within the national program. So they like to stay with a lot of those players sometimes because the learning curve isn't quite as steep. The other thing that's important to remember as well is that you need to be able to put together a team that complement one another. And, you know, even though there may be a combo guard that didn't get an invite, maybe that's because there's 6 combo guards that have been on the radar for Canada basketball for a couple of years that the staff and the high performance strategy are comfortable with. So moving away from those guys and starting over with some other ones in such a short camp just doesn't make sense. But I like what you said there as well. For players that haven't been involved or don't get an invite, don't let that discourage you from what you're doing, number one, and number two, discourage you from getting involved later, because there's a number of guys that weren't involved early. Like Kelly Olynyk was involved super early. He was a part of the RETA program that Terry Upshaw was involved with. He's actually an assistant coach on this team, and he's been involved with Canada basketball forever. But then Lugan Stewart, he was on the B team couple of years ago when they were practicing here in Toronto and had those exhibition games here. He was on the B team. He was brought in to practice against the A team, and he was one of the most important players to our senior team, like at the Victoria qualifier. So for the players out there, exactly what Efe said, don't let this think like, forget Canada basketball. They don't even, they don't care. They can't identify. No, sometimes it's just they've identified somebody else earlier, but guess who's going to end up being with that team in the end, right? And I wanted to get onto the coaching staff because that is something that I was very happy about. That Patrick Tatum, who's the head coach at McMaster, is the head coach of this team, and I think that is important because, generally speaking, on the international side, there's not a lot of young Black coaches that are in charge of these age group teams, and I think this is very good. Not only because Patrick Tatum has been involved. He should be the head coach of this team. And I love the fact that he is put out there now. And this is a great feather in his cap going forward.
100%. I think it's just good for the kids to see someone you look like that's coaching that team, that's a leader of men as well. Right. So they'll follow in that person's footsteps, right? They'll be drawn to seeing someone who's coaching at that level on that kind of scene and know that, okay, like this person can take me where I need to get to. It's that trust, right? So that's how I feel about that. And as a person of color as well, like it's a great opportunity to represent your country, to put that trust into someone, have that faith and know that they can lead that next group, that next generation in, I think is great for Pat. And I'm excited for him.
Absolutely. And speaking of Canadian coaching, huge news from the senior side, the commitment of Nick Nurse, that he will indeed stay on through the next Olympic cycle heading to the 2024 games in Paris. I'll be honest, I was pleasantly surprised to hear he would be back. I had heard that he was not coming back, that was his kick at the can, and he just didn't want to commit the time that was needed. But in the interview on Tim and Friends, it was nice to hear that he lost sleep over those losses, or over that loss that held him out of the Olympics. And it just seemed to me that he took that personal and wanted to come back and make it right.
I'm glad he said that, because to me, it's one, if he felt like he didn't have the time or the energy to kind of give towards that program, then okay, then who's that next person to step in? But then also, if you've underperformed, there's not many people who get the opportunity to go back and get a second chance at it. So it's like, okay, that definitely surprised me. And for better or for worse, Canada basketball tripled down on it. They're like, okay, Nick is our guy. We're running with him. He's going to be the leader of this next wave of Canadian men, the senior national team. So it's like, okay, if you believe in Nick Nurse, that's one thing. It's definitely not the talent, because we have guys. I don't care what anyone says. Even though we missed, like, a lot of different guys didn't play, I think we still had enough to get past that qualifying round or whatever and make it into the Olympics. So it's like, okay, if we underperform again, what is the real issue?
We've heard this before about we need buy-in. We're only going to be taking guys who are committed for the next 3 years. I mean, I've heard this before in press conferences, and I hope it's different. And supposedly they had a summit of some of these players down in Vegas and kind of sat down and really talked about it. But, how do we know if that's really going to happen, right? How do we know?
You don't know. You don't know. You got to see the games play out. You got to see and it just is what it is at this point. I hope the summit and that kind of thing really does make a difference. If they win, then we'll be like, okay, the guys knew what they were doing. They re-signed Nurse. They had the summit. They did different things, talked to the players who want to be committed and so forth. So it's a wait and see thing. I think we just have a sour taste in our mouth, like Nick Nurse does, obviously after what we've seen. So you really can't do anything more than wait and see. But if it comes to that point again where we underperform, then like, who are we looking at? Because it's not the talent. And if you believe Nick Nurse is the coach, like, I guess he's proven it. Like, he won an NBA championship, so he's doing something right. He's done something right. So it's like, what's next? Like, what change can you make from within to possibly help us get to that next level? Now, I like how they're emphasizing continuity.
Yeah,
like that is extremely important in building a culture. So I kind of like that. So maybe they're starting to look within themselves, like the guys who are running it too. Maybe it's a Mike Meeks or Rowan Barrett Sr. Maybe they're like, okay, we need to go back to the drawing table and we need to figure out, like, why do we keep screwing this up, or what's happened in the past that's gotten us to this point still, and how do we improve upon it?
And I think the other thing is the fact that the window's a little smaller this time, because it's already 2021 because of the pushback due to the pandemic. So now it's only a 3-year commitment, and really it's a 1-year commitment because the World Cup is in 2022, and that can give you a direct berth into the 24 Olympics if you rank high enough. And Canada did move up in the world rankings, so they will be put, when the draw comes out, they'll be put in a different group and maybe a little bit of an easier pathway in that World Cup. So the focus is really 2022 right now. And then you have a year and a half lead up where you just play games and you can try to bring people together to get that continuity. And I mean, the news about Nick Nurse came out the same day that the CEBL announced its newest and first independently owned franchise, the Scarborough Shooting Stars, a joint venture between Sam Ibrahim of the Playground and Nicholas Carino, also known as OVO Nico, an original member of Drake's OVO family. From your perspective, someone a little younger than I am, what does this mean to the grassroots basketball community? And I guess, what does it mean to the CEBL to kind of have that connection, not only into Scarborough, because it's the first Toronto area team, but also with, the OVO family?
I love it. Anything that could raise the profile of Canadian basketball and from the grassroots up, I'm all for it. I support it. I love it. It's funny. I'm gonna take you back to my uni years, and I remember when Drake, funny enough, started appearing courtside at the Raptors games, and everyone would like laugh at him, and they would take a crap on him, like, oh, this guy's such a mascot, like what is he doing? But you knew, like, you kind of felt, if you're watching closely, there was a bigger play happening, and I'm happy for Nico, one, because it's his home city, and he's doing something special there. That's great. It's an amazing feeling, and it's good to see him. He's still OVO, but he's Nico. Like, he's kind of separating himself now as like he's a guy, like he's the face of this project, and it's great to see, along with Sam Ibrahim, who is doing something special in his own right. Like, he's building facilities across Ontario, and soon to be Canada. Like, that is amazing because we didn't have that. And I remember talking to Sam at one point too, the opening day at the Burlington location. And he was talking about he got hit up from like an NBA player or someone. And it was like, oh, like, do you have space or time for me to work out? Like, I can't find a gym anywhere. And he's just like, wait, what? You're an NBA player? You can't go anywhere to work out? Like, that is crazy. It's amazing what he's doing. Him, Jamie, and the whole team. It's special, and I'm looking forward to it. And in terms of what the kids see, I mean, OVO it's that thing. It's a high level brand. Like Drake and his guys, they've done a great job, and to coincide that or to see that alongside the CEBL is special. And it's good for the kids to know that there's something there. There's more to it. And I see what the CEBL is building, and it's great, and it's happening very fast. So I'm looking forward to seeing how it ultimately shapes out.
Yeah, and both Ibrahim and Nico spoke about this team providing them an opportunity to give back to the local Scarborough community and also provide opportunity for jobs and basketball positions for young people, which is what the CEBL is all about. I've seen it firsthand, the opportunities that provides people in the basketball landscape, which, to be honest, there aren't a lot out there in Canada. The industry is still so young. Someone like yourself in the spot that you find yourself in now, what can you say for young people looking to get involved, that there's no role too small really to get your foot in for the basketball community?
Definitely one on the, I guess in general, not even just the players, people who are fans of basketball, like, pay attention. Like, there's something happening in your backyard right now that if you love the game and you want to turn that dream into a reality, where you're playing My GM on 2K, you're doing different things, and you're just talking basketball with your friends, like, there's an actual opportunity for you to work in that field. Like, just get involved.
Get inspired, right?
Get inspired.
And it doesn't mean, like, maybe you don't get the job that you're looking for with, the Shooting Stars in year one, right? Go to a game and get inspired and see what comes from that, right? And it's like, it's not all going to be handed to you. And it's just one of those things that, you have to, everyone talks about support local. And during the pandemic, that became a big thing. Like, don't buy everything off Amazon, support the local store. Guess what, man? Support local also comes with sports. And if you're a
100%.
Basketball fan, don't just support the Raptors, because guess what? Raptors are good, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody's got a Raptors hat and a Raptors shirt, but I can't wait to see the gear that comes out for this Scarborough team.
Like, support.
Yeah,
exactly. Support the homegrown guys. Like, they're not just popping through and playing at the highest levels just for no reason. Like, somebody's doing their job. People are doing good things in Mississauga, in Toronto, in Scarborough, in London, in Windsor, wherever it may be, in Quebec. Like, these are places where the game is growing at a rapid rate, and there's fans. There's people who love it and support it. Just come out. Out. See what it is.
And it's an opportunity to have an impact, and anybody can have an impact if you put the energy in to do it. And somebody who's having an impact, and you'll see them more and more in the gyms as things continue to get back to normal, is Efe Ashakah, NPH lead scout. You can find him on Twitter at ESHAKAH. Next on the NPH Hour, we'll be getting into the CEBL even deeper with two players who had amazing seasons for their respective teams. That's next here on Saga 960 AM.